Good morning, scholars. This is Miss Smith. Today is Monday. Let's get a quick review. So, we have been talking about the Roaring Twenties, and we saw how America boomed at the beginning of the 1920s and life changed. So, we focused on that. We focused about how the economy started to change, people's social life started to change, they started to change economically, financially, life in the 1920s was good. So we're going to be focusing on a DBQ, which is a document-based question, which is called a decade of change for this week. You guys will be focusing on primary and secondary sources. So, for many Americans, the 1920s was a decade of prosperity and confidence. However, by the end of the decade, political, social, and economic changes were starting that would create a far different America in the 1930s, and that became the Great Depression. So, first, we're going to talk about all the good things and all the exciting things that happened in the 1920s and all the changes that were made, especially to the women. And then, of course, we're going to go into the Great Depression. So this week, we'll start off with Monday. We're focusing on a document-based question, okay? And it will test your ability to work with historical documents. Now, you guys, we've been doing this constantly, so you know how I tell you to analyze that primary source. First, make sure it is a primary source, because a primary source is a document from that actual time. And then there's the secondary sources, which is a story of something that happened. Okay, so we have our primary source, which is a document, artifact, interview, anything of that nature from that actual time. So if an interview that was done today about COVID from a doctor who's dealing with COVID, that would be a primary source. Now, if it's in a book and it's talking about what someone said about said and said this, that is a secondary source. So, when you are looking at these documents, I need you to pay close attention to the language that is used to reflect the historical context of that time which it was written. So, it may be a primary source and it may be a secondary source. Looking at these document-based questions, you will be able to discuss the changes in American society. And one of the biggest changes comes in the form of the women. Before we had passive, calm, homemakers, very submissive, very quiet women. And then we had what's called the flappers. They got so excited, they got independent. That was a major change. Okay. So your objective today will be to analyze and evaluate two primary and or secondary sources. Okay. So for today, I've already, there's your today in history. I've already filtered out for you. It's a great one because this is where college, who all wanted an education all the way back in 1948, they were proposing a free 2-year community college. That's why some community colleges are very inexpensive, like MATC, WCTC. Some of them are even free to help you get your education. Our word of the day is rickety. The definition is likely to fall or collapse, shaky. My sentence is that old wooden porch was very rickety. Please type your sentence there, and I've already included your objective. So your objective for today is students will evaluate a primary source and secondary source excerpts or paragraphs to answer DB questions using textual evidence to support your answers. So you have to use textual evidence to support your answer. You will be focusing on document 1 today, answering these 2 questions, and document 2. And this picture might look familiar because this is one of the pictures from last week in our social studies book or our history book. They had this picture. This is the life. Think about the flapper, how women and men changed, how they got to celebrate it. Think about prohibition and the speakeasies and how they were still drinking even though it was prohibited. You will look at this document and answer the two questions. And that is it for today for social studies. Once you're done with social studies, you're going to go over to faith. And today's faith promise is the promise of our being heard. It comes from 1 John 5:14, and it says, and this is the confidence that we have toward him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. So now, when my now grown children came to me to ask for something, they had the confidence that I would hear them. Believers can have that same confidence towards God because it's according to his will. There is no doubt that he'll hear us. Believe that and don't trust what you feel. And this is like one of my major mantras. I always tell you guys, you have a voice and you need to be heard. You have a voice and God hears you. That's what I'm here for. I know you have a voice and I'm here to hear you and listen to you and help you and guide you. And so is God. So when you have something to say, have the confidence in talking to God. Have the confidence in talking to an adult. Have the confidence and talk to your best friend if you need to say something and you will be heard. So remember, when you're doing your faith, you are to copy this promise and find either a quote, a scripture, or put it in your own words what it means to you. Okay? So again, for social studies, you are to do document 1 and document 2. Answer those 4 questions. And when you're finished, you are to go over to faith, document, copy promise number 12, and find a scripture, a picture, or a quote to help you connect this to your promise. Okay? Love you, and I will see you tomorrow.